So there was a massive missile and drone attack this morning, but we'll get to that in just a moment. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide you with context in the war in Ukraine, and this is the Daily Brief. So there's 1,390 Russian casualties day over day. That's the same as yesterday. Now, it's obviously not that they have exactly 1,390. They round to 1,390 one way or the other. 1,390 Russian casualties, 5 tanks, 31 armored fighting vehicles, 6 artillery systems, 50 vehicles, and fuel tanks. So here, this is where you're seeing the 1,390 yesterday, same number, but obviously these numbers have also shifted as well. But I'm showing you this because I want you to see what I said yesterday. Worth of tempo, so it's yeah, we'll see. We'll look at the battlefield in just a little bit. Now there are 2 Russian Kh-59-69 missiles that were lobbed at Ukraine last night. No drones. And that could be a good thing, but it could also be problematic because when the Russians don't send a number of drones, if they're sending at least a dozen or 2 dozen drones at a time, I feel much more comfortable than when they don't send any. Because sometimes when they do this, I'm not saying they're doing this right now, but sometimes when they do this, they're saving up for a rainy day to send a big blitz of 100 some odd to try to overwhelm defenses. Okay, so that's what they did, exactly that. Here's what they did last night into this morning. So here, shot down 0 out of 4 Kinzhal ballistic missiles, 1 out of 2 Iskander ballistic missiles, 0 out of 1 KN-23 ballistic missiles, and then 80 out of 86 Kalibr, Iskanders, or other cruise missiles. So they have a terrible time shooting down ballistic missiles. They have a much higher success ratio at shooting down cruise missiles. 80 out of 193 Shahed drones were shot down, but another 105 were suppressed by electronic warfare. So if you count the 105 plus 80, so that's 185 out of 193. That's not bad for shooting down those. But again, like I was telling you yesterday, if you see them only shoot 2 or just a couple of something, they very often are saving up for a rainy day so that they can try to overwhelm defenses. I hate that I was right, but I wish I was wrong. But that's how what I've seen in the past before, and you can't spend hours a day on this for 1,000 days without starting to see some patterns. Okay, Ambassador Bridget Brink, this morning, Russia attacked Ukraine's energy grid with 93 missiles, 200 drones targeting critical infrastructure that civilians in Odessa, Vinnytsia, Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Cherkasy, Kyiv rely on for heat, water, and power. We continue to stand with Ukraine against Russia's war. Okay, Ivano-Frankivsk authorities say it was the worst ever attack on their region. I actually had to look up where Ivano-Frankivsk was. I'm just unfamiliar with it, and it's over here in the western area near Slovakia, Hungary, and if you pan out Romania, like right here in between in this pocket. But it's so not talked about because it's so far west. It doesn't get a lot of attention. So they're trying to knock out the power in all kinds of places across Ukraine. A day after Trump announces that he disagrees with Ukraine having the right to strike Ukrainian territory, Russia hits the people of Ukraine with one of the largest missile attacks of the war, with an estimated cost of $1 billion. The attack was targeted at purely at civilian infrastructure. Okay, so 2 things here. So this bit about Trump announcing he disagrees with, he didn't come out and announce it. It was part of the Time magazine article. But he also, in that same thing, was talking about, hey, we're not going to just leave Ukraine alone. That you can't negotiate if you just leave them out there to dry. So, but the $1 billion figure here, $1 billion in these missile and drone attacks last night. That's something. Okay, now it was interesting because you also see this yesterday or the day before. It all runs together now. The Ukrainians attacked Tagnarog. It's right near Rostov-on-Don. I guess this was 2 days ago, and just past Mariupol, and they hit something. Apparently, it appeared that they hit something, but we weren't sure. But apparently, it got up their Irish. Are you familiar with that phrase? In America, we have a lot of ethnic related phrases because we're a big melting pot. I'm partly Irish, and to raise your Irish means to make you angry. Russian Ministry of Defense. On December 11th, 2024, Ukraine launched a missile strike with 6 attack missiles at a military airfield near Tangnarod. In response, Russia carried out a massive precision strike on critical fuel and energy infrastructure in Ukraine, targeting facilities vital to military-industrial complex. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the targets were hit successfully. Okay, so they're saying that it's in response to this. So whether it is in response to that or not, we just don't know, but that's what they are saying this is for. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha has called for the immediate delivery of 20 air defense systems following a massive Russian missile attack targeting the energy infrastructure. Russia seeks to deprive us of energy. In return, we must deprive it of the means of tea. Okay, so you're going to pay for this one way or another. You're going to pay for this by rebuilding it afterwards, or you're going to pay for it by having the air defense in place. Far better to have the air defense in place, but okay. 5 out of 9 power units in Ukraine have reduced capacity due to Russia's morning attack on the country's energy infrastructure, according to the IAEA. Remember, the IAEA was targeted by a Russian drone yesterday, a IAEA vehicle. So it doesn't seem like the Russians have a great deal of respect for the IAEA. Russia launched ballistic missile strikes targeting energy systems, transportation networks, key facilities across the country. The U.S. ambassador stated Russia struck Ukraine's critical infrastructure starting at 7 a.m. So they did some things last night, but they also then waited until this morning, and that's when this all went down. Okay, according to Ukraine's energy ministry, Russia has launched more than 1,000 strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure facilities since October. 1,000 since October. That's crazy, but that's what they're doing. But never fear, because the UN's on it. UN Nuclear Watchdog Board condemns Russia's attack on Ukraine's energy grid, failing to mention Russia. How about that? Following the November 28 strikes, the IAEA Governor's Board passed a resolution condemning the attacks, strong words, on the infrastructure supporting nuclear plants, not mentioning Russia was the one that did it. Like, who else could have done it? Okay, Andrew Perpetua, things you will never see in the Western media as they write about things. Quote, in clear escalation of the war today, Putin targeted major transit hubs in Ukraine. They'll never say that because their journalists they're tepid. They're afraid to say the things that are obvious. Kyiv residents are pouring into metro stations and bomb shelters this morning as Putin's nation launches cruise missiles from strategic bombers that Biden still forbids us from striking. It's an interesting way of thinking about that. Like, we still are forbidden to go after these long-range targets, and this is the result. Kyiv subway is used as a shelter instead of good sleep and school. Our kids hide from missiles. It's unfortunate. Military facility has gone up in flames. This is what the Ukrainians were doing now on the other side of this equation. A military facility has gone up in flames in Novosibirsk, Russia. The site is linked to a company critical for Russia's strategic operations, supplies energy infrastructure, manufactures explosion-proof equipment. Fires now covers 5,000 square meters. So they're striking something. Now, Ukraine is suspending coking coal mining near Donetsk-Pokrovsk amid Russian advance, and I'm going to show you just how close they are to taking Pokrovsk in just a moment here. Let's look at the front lines. Zaporizhzhia region, there was 1 unsuccessful assault. Kherson region, there were 2 enemy assaults. Kharkiv region, there were 5 assaults today. Bakhmut front, 6 attacks today. Kupiansk direction 7 times, Lyman direction 21 times, Pokrovsk direction 43 attacks. And let's look at this map here too, because if you look at it, you can see if this Pokrovsk there, I mean, they've just moved and moved and moved, just yard by yard. Or I guess I should say meter by meter for my mostly European audience. Meter by meter, they're moving, they're taking ground just a bit at a time, and they're really close to Pokrovsk right now. And in Kharkiv direction, the Russians have been attacked 43 times. But look at this, like they're attacking from multiple angles around it, and it's not gonna go well over the long haul unless something changes radically. All right, we're almost done. A herd of pigs inspects a Ukrainian FPV drone that sits in ambush waiting for Russian vehicles or infantry to approach. So this is the point of view of the FPV drone who's just sitting there waiting for a Russian vehicle to go by. And the pigs are just trying to, what is this? Okay, rewriting the rules of modern warfare with drones. They really, really are. I mean, it's so changed how warfare is conducted right now. Last little bit I'll leave you with Darth Putin. The parody site says, in my occupied territories, there will be a plaza called the Olaf Scholz Escalation Management Plaza in honor of all that he's done for me. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.